Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We'll now be going over to our Abuja studios where Honorable Zachary Mohammed, who is the spokesman for the House of Representatives, joins us. Morning, Honorable, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, we're speaking about the suspension of the central bank governor. What do you think of this? Do you think that it was in line with the Central CBN Act?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chamberlain. I actually listened to Chief Zekome with rapt attention. But you exactly know what happened in the floor of the House before our 2 weeks break to consider the 2014 budget. But the thinking of the House, if you look at the torrents of our debate that day, was the fact that we have nothing wrong with Mr. President exercising his powers under the CBN Act to remove the CBN governor. But of course, people read that CBN Act just by a half and stop. And that is worrisome, because Section 11(2)(f) states categorically that the CBN governor can be removed provided it's supported by two-thirds majority of the Senate. And in this case, we don't know whether a communication has been sent to the Senate requesting the removal of Mr. President of the CBN governor. So that is what we're worried about. We want, in the House of Representatives, we want institutions to be built, strong institutions, and not individuals. So we're not bothered by all the misconduct put together. That is not what we're worried about. We're worried about the process of removal, because if we as the Parliament brought out an act in 2007, even if we are not members, it's continuum, and the act has been abused, we should stand by it and insist that the right thing be done. That's exactly the thinking, and of course the position of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, but Honorable, isn't the reason that brought about the suspension also important here as much as the process?
The crafters of the act were very, very clever and never put suspension because it could be prone to abuses. If you look at the length and breadth of that act, there's no place where you will see suspension being stated. The only clear case of its removal is stated clearly that you could remove the CBN governor supported by the two-thirds majority of the Senate. And I listened to Chief Zekome. He was talking about I think the law did not say rectification. You don't remove before you go to the Senate to take you take their consent. You take it to them, they vote on it, then at the end of the day, a position is taken. If the ayes have it, Mr. President will have his way to remove the CBN governor. But of course, it is all if the words were rectification, you can take an action, then later you take to the Senate for rectification. The crafters of the act didn't put rectification.
Honorable, have you seen the report of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria?
I have not seen it.
Okay, in that report, the suspended CBN governor was accused of incompetence, nonchalant, fraud, wastefulness, abuse of due process, and deliberate efforts to misrepresent facts on his part. Is that not enough for him to be let go?
We need to get this thing very clear, and that's exactly. I want you to get me very clearly. The House of Representatives is not saying that a public officer shouldn't be sanctioned, but we are saying that a procedure should be followed. We're not in Sanusi today. Supposing tomorrow the same process is followed and the INEC chairman is gone, or some other institutions are touched, it could be me that is there tomorrow. And of course, I would not want a situation where I would just, the institution would just be humiliated. You know, the CBN, yes, I learned people were saying there's no absolute autonomy. But of course, that is the nerve center of the nation's economy. Anything that happens with it has a way of affecting international investors coming. Because anything that happens to it, look at what happened. The mere mention of the suspension and removal that day affected even transactions in the stock market. So that tells you exactly that it's a very sensitive sector of our economy that you cannot afford to toy with. So I have no disagreement or agreement with the findings of that panel. But for me, and for us in the House, we're saying that the procedure should be followed, especially when figures are flying, figures are not being reconciled, and it has to come now. And we're saying that the man has about 2 months to go. So we're saying what is there that has to make it very hasty. So that is the observation of a lot of people, and we're just saying that Mr. President has a right, if you look at the act, to remove the CBN governor. It is there. If anybody tells you he does not have the right, he is not speaking the truth. But it must be supported with 2/3 majority of the Senate. And of course, the irony of it is that a new person has been nominated by Mr. President, and it will be sent to the same Senate for ratification or for their own support. So why would the law have two faces? If you want to remove, you don't want to go through that same door, but you want to appoint, you want to go through the same door. That's our own, and our democracy should be given the opportunity to grow with stronger institutions. That's exactly my conclusion. So I have no agreement or disagreements with the contents of that panel.
Honorable, many people have made the distinction between a removal and a suspension. Now, some people say that if you're occupying a seat and there have been gross allegations of gross misconduct and recklessness leveled against you, now there ought to be a way where you can be investigated without your presence there, impeding investigations. What would you have suggested to that the presidency does in this particular situation, especially considering the light of the allegations being leveled against the suspended CBN governor?
Okay, I am aware that, for instance, it's even made clearer that I think Mr. Sanusi was to proceed on terminal leave maybe in the next 2 months, if I'm correct. 8 weeks wouldn't have made so much of a difference for us to wait, because Mr. President, by the grace of God, is still there to 2015. So he still has a time to be able to do forensic auditing or all of that. All these other gross misconducts will now be collected together, and the court of competent jurisdiction will be approached.
You're saying
that will even go a long way in strengthening our jurisprudence. So that if a CBN governor comes tomorrow, he might not walk the path or the pitfalls of a predecessor who didn't stand firm. But of course, if you are not, you cannot be a judge in your own court. And that's exactly what we're saying. We are worried that as an institution, it should not be disparaged like that. And for us who are the legislature, if we make laws and they are not obeyed, or fast-track approaches given to the law, it means that there's no need throwing out the laws in the first place. It means that the CBN Act is just worthless if they are not followed strictly. That's our concern, and I still stand by that.